cruise around in. This thing's awesome. Base map for this the other day, then actually caught COVID and haven't had an opportunity to come back to it for a while. If I remember correctly, I had a little too much IAC parked position in it, so I'm going to pull a little out. Hopefully I don't go too far and then it doesn't want to start. Alright, let's see what happens. Consider that to be about as good as it gets. It's currently running in open loop due to coolant temperature, and so I guess I'm going to let it warm up and then we'll start shaping the fuel curve. Alright, let's let it warm up. Alright, made it to 138 degrees coolant temperature, and I just got a phone call that I have to leave. So we'll try this again tomorrow, I guess. This is so frustrating. Alright, let's try this again. It's next day, and probably every bit of 20-25 degrees colder than yesterday, which sucks, and it's raining. It's about warmed up. The other day I played with the idle a little bit, got it idling pretty good. Here, it turns real nice, doesn't stumble all over the place. It does feel like it needs a little work on the tip end, but I need to go through the fuel table a little bit first and get that straight. You always want to make sure your main fuel table is right before you start trying to work on all the other acceleration enrichments and all that good stuff, otherwise you just kind of run around in circles. Alright, just a little bit of free revving I've done. It looks like it wants no idle, or no fuel at idle, and pretty hefty jump after we pass idle. So looks like we're going to hold it at about 2,000 RPM and start shaping this thing a little bit. And now that we're driving, it's the exact opposite. There's a massive delay. Up to 2,500. Got the learn table disabled. That's full throttle. Right close. Let's try a little more RPM. You can see it's going to hold it right here at this 3,000 RPM. That's really close for our first go at it. It's annoying, my computer's running real slow. I don't know what that's all about. might notice too that once I give it some throttle and it goes into new cells, it shows that there's a higher correction and then it stabilizes and fixes itself. That seems to happen with most ECUs, but with Holley it seems to be like way more common or way more pronounced. So once you get into new cells, just make sure you hang out there for a second before you start making big changes. Let's see how the accel enrichment is. Feels pretty good. So it looks like to me at the lower manifold pressures we need to take a little bit of fuel out. Came back to idle pretty good. Looks like the hold value might be a little too high, so we'll change that. Looks like the cooling system on this is keeping it in check, which is nice. Might have to restart my computer. Alright, since my computer doesn't seem to want to cooperate very well, turn the learn on, and we'll see if it'll just fill the table out a little bit, just to give you a better idea of what's going on and kind of how I'm doing this. You see, we're kind of right in between a couple of cells, so let's go down a little bit. Now we're like right at the 1800 mark. And you see I have the sampling rate pretty slow, which gives you a lot more accurate of a reading, I guess you could say. Significant amount of fuel removed. Let's try a little more RPM. And you can kind of say this is a good look as to why I don't really like using the learn table, because it's trying to add fuel here and then subtract fuel here. I don't know, when you're just getting something up and running for the first time, it makes sense to try to sort of fill this in, but once you want to really start trying to fine tune it, I just feel you got to do it manually. I'm going to erase all of this, and I'm going to pull some fuel out down low. And if we look at the graph, we might put a little fuel in down here, blend it in a little bit, and then yeah, I'm just going to have to do this manually. Another thing to keep in mind with the learn table is once you do enough of these, especially going from logs and things, well, you see that the closed loop correction is, let's say it's -6. If you take away -6, you're going to overshoot it. So if the learn table is saying that it's -6 and you just transfer it to the fuel table, again, it's going to overshoot. So again, that's something that you can avoid if you do it manually. Alright, got our learn turn back off. Let's bring our RPM back down again. I'll go through the fuel table like this 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, however many times you need to, until you get all the numbers in line. So even though I pulled a bunch of fuel out, it wasn't enough. So now we're back down 0, 1%. For this spot. I'm sure you noticed that I was blending everything after I made the big change. Still holding pretty good. And I didn't take as much out here, and apparently I needed to. That fuel table looks all jacked up over here, so we'll have to fix that. But you can see our closed loop's where we want it to be. Let's see if I turn all the idle control off, and I'm doing it all through custom tables. So let's see if it'll quit hanging the idle up. The idle hanging up is one of the biggest problems that this had, and kind of why it's here. A whole lot better. So it maybe dipped 50, 75 RPM lower than I'd like. So we'll touch that up. And we'll smooth out our fueling here at idle a little bit too. Alright, so let's see. Now that we've cleaned the fuel table up, if it's a little snappy or off idle, it should be. So what felt like the acceleration enrichment stumble is just gone now. Seems in line. So that's basically what the process looked like at, what was it, mainly just at 2000 RPM. So I can't make this video 16 hours long, so now I'm going to go through and do that same process through all the different RPM ranges, and then we'll do some full throttle stuff. But so far it's shaping up pretty good. Alright, so now we're going to start the full throttle pulls at 2500 RPM. We'll pull like 4 degrees out everywhere. Full throttle. Should give us a good starting point. So Dyno's going to hold it at 2500 and then it will release. And then came back to idle nice too. So during the pull, I'm actually looking to see what the closed loop correction is doing. And it was negative for a majority of that run, just a few percent, so I stayed in it. And then when I let out, the correction actually started going positive. So anytime it starts going positive, I usually will just abort the run and then check out all the data and make sure we're not going to blow ourselves up. And even though it's cold outside, it's like 100 degrees in here, so I got to ditch the sweatshirt. And we'll download the log and we'll check that out here in a second. Alright, so if we scroll through this, green line here is our closed loop correction. I actually don't like viewing it in a way that makes sense because it looks like pure hell and it makes me feel like a piece of garbage. So I just find that a little easier to view. So just below 3000 we need to add a touch of fuel. We'll blend this and I'll smooth it all after the fact. And about 5000 it started going positive, so I left out of it. Still needs a little touching up, but before I go crazy on making it beautiful, I gotta make it right first. So we'll rev this next run a little bit higher. 339. It looked like I had a negative correction the whole time that time, which is good. So I'm just gonna take a touch out. And we'll try 2 degrees of timing on this run. .346. Alright, let's check this log out. Looks like we're about due for a new camera battery. This camera sucks. It's our most recent run. Here's where we started and where we're kind of up to so far. You can see the green versus the yellow, and the red is with more timing. And then you can also see that it's up everywhere. However, like 4,500 RPM and below, it's not up as much as it is at higher RPM. That's where you start getting into non-flat timing curves. So if we look at this run, you can see out here everything's flat, and down here this has happened basically each run. Once the dyno releases and it starts accelerating, it's just getting a little bit of a choppiness in the reading. So I'm not going to chase this too much right now. I'll take it out on the street and see if we need to touch that up at all. Right here at 3,800, we'll take a touch of fuel out, and then up top we're 0.1%. So 3,700. So on this one we're going to try 2 degrees up above about 5,000, 4,600. So 1 degree below 4,600, 2 degrees after, and just a small change on the fuel table. Doing these runs in 4th gear. .361, so I like the timing. Here's our last 3 runs where we put some timing in. Again, you can see how it starts growing with RPM, and we picked up some from the yellow to the red, and we picked up even more from the red to the blue. So the next run we'll try a little bit more timing, and once we quit making power with timing, then we'll play with the target air fuel ratio a little bit. Just a little more timing on this one. .364, so it looks like we're about done on timing. Alright, I'm about to smash this computer with a hammer. So fuel in within 1 or 2% the whole run. And that was another 2 degrees up top. Let's overlay it and see. The green and the blue are our last 2. So I'm going to pull one of the 2 degrees I put in and out, and see what our target air fuel is. We'll lean it out 2 points on this run. And as far as the full throttle stuff goes, this might be about where we end up. Like always, it proves my theory that going lean doesn't always work out in your favor. So it's 361. So basically lost like 4 or 5 horsepower everywhere. And I have not pulled that degree of timing back out yet. So that was only the air fuel changing. So let's take a look at the difference. What was that, 6 horsepower difference? So I did start, so I always pull timing out from where I think it's going to end up and work it in. Usually on the target air fuel, I start with what I think is going to be right and then play around with it a little bit. So that was 2 points leaner and it lost power. So just for the hell of it, we'll go 2 points richer and see what that does. But yeah, I'm not expecting it to do anything, but you got to try it, right? Each run I've been making part throttle changes. Now it looks like a right on the money. perfectly okay with that. Alright. .364, and I'm not smart enough to remember what it was before. Let's see. Alright, so our original air-fuel ratio was the best. So we're going to put that back. We're going to pull our 1 degree timing out. And then it's still wet and rainy, so I don't want to drive this. Probably pull it off the dyno, and maybe tomorrow I'll drive around on the street a little bit. Being a manual makes it 10 times cooler for whatever reason. Drove around for a little while already. It feels really, really good. I really haven't found any problems that I need to address. My biggest concern was going to be the way that it was going to return to an idle out on the road. But since I've bypassed all Holley's idle control and doing it all through custom tables, so I push the clutch in right now. You watch the RPM just drops and then hold solid. That's doing exactly what I want. Even cruising around at no RPM in 4th gear right now, you give it some throttle and it does exactly what it needs to do. It's like the perfect truck just to cruise around in. This thing's awesome. Let's see if we come to a complete stop. Idle doesn't hunt or do anything stupid. Doesn't try and dip down real low. I think there's a brewery right here. Should you go get a beer? Or maybe they went out of business already. Oh yeah, it's right there. Damn, they already went out of business. I'm sure somebody lost several $100,000 on that adventure. That sucks. Alright, I think this one's about ready to go back to the owner. Actually significantly faster than I would expect it to be. That's awesome. Alright, that's gonna do it for this one. See you next time.